Welcome into This Week in Missouri Politics Midweek Update. We're calling it now the TWMP Daily. We are joined by the man who can make more phones ring in the state capitol than anyone else in this state. Aaron Dorr, thank you for making the time.
Not a problem. Happy to be here.
So tell folks about the organization and what you actually do on behalf of the Second Amendment rights in the state of Missouri.
You know, for a long time, the fight for gun rights was always controlled by national organizations. Yep. You know, they're 1,000 miles away. They come out here sometimes never, once a year, maybe never. And for the most part, donor dollars went to out-of-state organizations who almost never showed up. And when they did, it was to give A ratings to candidates who frankly didn't earn them. And so I'd say 15 years ago, a lot of the gun rights, members just kind of said, we need to have local organizations on the ground who actually work in Missouri, or any state, for that matter.
The NRA did take it up to a point in Missouri. I don't know about other states. Yeah. They took gun rights up to a point. I think that point was pretty much concealed carry. And then they kind of ghosted the state.
They're kind of quiet for a long time. We have some new voices there now, NRA for Missouri. Hopefully we're going to have some better representation going forward. But our whole point was, in-state gun owners know what they want and what they need more than some person from 1,000 miles away. So we got going, I want to say 2015 here in Jeff City. And the results have been pretty good since then.
So I saw you met with Kehoe today.
Yeah, that was yesterday, but he's always been strong on gun rights, and he made it very clear he's going to keep being strong on guns as a governor. So.
Well, walk me through what that's like. I mean, you in the race, I think, if I had to guess, the video would show Kehoe lukewarm, maybe? Kehoe warm?
Well, I think it's more like what's his priorities, as a politician. I don't think guns was his number one issue when he was in the Senate. But, I mean, on the debate stage with Crystal Quaid, he just dropped a bomb on her and made it very clear that when I grew up in St. Louis, there was, thugs on both sides of my house. They didn't buy guns legally. So all the gun control bills you want to pass, it's not going to change anything in Missouri. And his answer was great. And we're very happy to announce that to all of our members.
How do you approach that as clearly the leading gun rights advocate in the state of Missouri? You sit down with a lot of membership, a lot of stroke. What's that working relationship like with someone that maybe you haven't always been on the same page on? You sit down now, do you fresh slate it? How do you approach that?
Well, I think it's just kind of like what's the mood right now in the room. The mood right now, whether it's in D.C. with President Trump or whether it's here in Missouri, is this is a new era. Biden's out, Trump is in. It's time for some big, bold things. And frankly, when it comes to gun rights, there's been nothing big done for gun owners here in Missouri since 2021 with SEPA. So we're looking to kind of reset the deck and get some big things done this session, and I think the governor is too.
Let's talk about SEPA. Second Amendment Preservation Act. Yep. You've got Rick Bratton, and you said Bill Hardwick in the House carrying it.
That's right.
So SEPA, I remember the night. It was passed. Well, it was, God, what was that, 11, 12?
Long filibuster, 7 hours.
It was
like
pretty
that.
late in the night. You passed it. The courts kicked it out.
Yep.
What did the courts hang their hat on to kick that out?
Short version is they didn't like the preamble to the bill, to the law. They didn't like some of the introductory language. They had no problem with the idea of Missouri telling the feds, we're not going to help you enforce federal gun control. They had no problem with the penalties that we had in SEPA law, which was civil penalties against agencies that would violate SEPA. Their issue was some of the preamble language. So in a nutshell, our bill right now is just going to cut out the preamble, and we're going to rock and roll again.
Do you think that it's almost like a feeling out? Do you think they'll find another reason to boot this once you I've watched this a couple of times, more of federal court than state court.
Right.
You take care. They really just don't like the law, so they hang their hat here. You pass a different law, they'll hang their hat on another thing. Is this going to be a long-term process of feeling out the 10th Amendment issues?
That may happen. We have a whole new DOJ, though. We got a whole new federal government. Yeah. Everything is brand new now in Washington, D.C., so I doubt we're going to have the same problems with the DOJ that we had under Joe Biden.
What's the strategy for gun owners? Because right now, everyone's excited about Trump being in. But I think at a certain point in the next 4 years, you're going to see people feel like, well, they're not really going to mess with my guns while Trump's there. How do you keep people fired up on the gun rights issue with a strong ally in the White House?
Right. Well, a lot of folks were really jazzed up last time we had Trump in the White House, and they all watched congressional allies, abandon him and not do anything when it comes to guns. So our main mantra right now on the national side is we have this window. We're not sure how long we're going to have this window. Now it's time to do big things, not small stuff, big stuff. McConnell and Paul Ryan tanked everything on guns the first time Trump was in the White House. This is new. We're going to see what happens. You got Burleson right here from Missouri who is carrying H.R. 221, abolish the ATF. 15 years ago, that'd get you out of town. 10 years ago, after Fast and Furious, all they would say is we have to make some improvements.
Get her done.
But now we got bills, abolish them. He's got 30 co-sponsors. I saw Mark Alford an hour ago in the Capitol, and he's as happy as a clam to be on this bill. So there's an Overton window shift underway right right now what is acceptable behavior from gun owners to our delegation in D.C. and here in Jeff City.
All right, the rub I see on SAFE is two things. One, can you craft something the Democrats can allow to come to a vote without having to force the vote? Which last time you were able to do that. You were able to come up with a bill that you were happy with that they could allow to come to a vote and pass. It seems like you could figure that out. I mean, if all you're doing is taking the same thing they voted for before, allowed to come to a vote before, cutting a piece off of it, feels like you can do that.
That's the hope. Yeah, it's January. We'll have to see what happens.
Well, but I mean,
for the most part, it's all cut and paste.
Pretty clear signal.
Minus a couple paragraphs. Not doing a whole lot here.
Look, I watch one legislature. You watch 4 or 5, however many. When they're hearing the bill before February 1st, when they're talking about executing the bills out in January, that's all they can do. I mean, that's a sign of these are our priorities. It's the crime package. It's an illegal immigration thing. It's a gun thing. I think you have the abortion thing setting back for later in the year. But, I mean, the leadership in both chambers, to me, have said these are the 3 things that are coming. I think you may see some of this legislation on the floor next week.
We'd be happy to see that happen.
So when you break this down, we were talking about this in the truck. I've always seen the thought, and I don't think you have some people that are against gun, that they want stricter gun control.
Sure.
And that's their personal opinion. I think there's some people in the Republican Party that truly probably didn't want stricter gun control, but felt like some of the things you've advocated for would hurt Republicans in suburban districts.
Sure.
Same thing Missouri Right to Life goes through, is they're worried about those districts. We've seen since 2014, since Todd Aiken gave that weird comment, we've seen nothing but legislative gains. I mean, plus or minus 1-2 seats here and there.
It's good to be pro-gun in Missouri when you're a Republican.
Yeah, but at some point, I mean, take David Gregory, talented guy, rising star. He's in a district that I've been told, and people have shown me polling. Guns are unpopular and abortion is popular. David Gregory, pro-gun, pro-life. And he wins by a comfortable against a very good candidate, very well-funded candidate.
That's right.
A guy, my man, 3D Doug, was all for, and rightly so. Joe was a solid candidate. At some point, I think those concerns get hollow when election after election. You pass things like SAFE, it doesn't hurt the majorities. It doesn't move the needle anywhere in the suburbs. At some point, those objections become moot, I think.
I mean, the sky was going to fall in 2016 when Missouri passed constitutional carry, stand your ground law. Sky didn't fall. Not a single Republican lost their reelect in that year because of passing, at that time, the biggest gun bill in Missouri history. SAPA, 2021, same thing. We were going to lose a bunch of seats in 2022. Lost this many seats. I mean, when you got the mostly peaceful protests a couple of years ago, and they're pillaging through the suburbs, those same suburbs you met, that's where we're getting an explosion of new gun owners. Because whether you're a suburban soccer mom who wasn't very pro-gun or were very pro-gun in the past, when you see those kind of protests, you want to buy a gun, and you want lawmakers who will back that up in Jeff City.
It feels like there's a certain point where you can't really credibly make those arguments. Because show me the poll, whatever you want to show me. I'm not saying the polling was wrong. I'm just saying at the end of the day, it did not hurt the Republican slate of candidates in an area. Maybe they don't like Trump. Maybe they don't like guns. Maybe they like abortion. But they're still voting Republican. And I just think at some point those objections become moot.
I mean, you pick a race last session, every candidate who was strong on guns, who was hard right on guns, decimated in the primaries. I mean, look at the AG's race. Every single county. Nothing against Will Sharp. It's just that Bailey is a brawler when it comes to gun rights. And Missouri love to see guys in office and gals who will fight for gun rights. That was an example of every single county because everyone knew this guy was going to fight hard and has fought hard for gun rights.
I've watched the evolution of you in the organization. You could always get people to call. There is no one in this state when they go to make people call. Real people. Now, Missouri, let me just tell you, at the Capitol, you get a lot of call center crap and stuff. And the ladies that answer the phone, the gentlemen, they can tell if you're oh, hello, I'm from Westphalia. No, you're not from Westphalia. You're not.
That's right.
But you can actually make people from their districts reach out and call them. That is an amazing thing that you've been able to do. And I watched some guys hate it, and I watched some guys love it. Then I've watched you with Eric Schmidt, and a national star. And you were an integral part of helping him become a United States Senator. Andrew Bailey. I don't think you can get to 10 people, maybe not even 5, that were part of that victory outside of you. There's been a change from you were kind of the guy crying in the wilderness to now they're singing your tune.
Well, guns is a popular issue. And a lot of guys here in Missouri love the Second Amendment. We're happy to work with anybody who will fight for gun rights. Eric Schmidt was a brawler as the AG. He's now a brawler in the Senate. Same thing now with Bailey. Pick the congressman. I mean, look at Eric Burleson. I mean, here's a guy. He was he was a hardcore guy on guns in the House.
It's his issue.
Goes to the Senate. Now he's leading the fight in D.C. in this issue. So we're happy to partner with anybody who will fight for gun rights. We love helping guys who will support this issue, and so do Missourians. They want to see people who will fight, and all we do is say this guy is a guy who's fighting for your gun rights, and they love to support them.
Well, the one thing I think people say about you is whether they like it or not, you're a guy that fights. Speaking of, it's interesting to me to watch when you had a favorite in the speaker's race. You come back, though, to me, it's almost like when the dust settles, you have a more authoritative ability to demand that the speaker that won stick to some of these issues and have SEPA hearings in January and move the bill quickly. It's almost like you came out of that with an ability to kind of give the thumbs up, thumbs down on the issue of guns and maybe even just the issue of big, bold things. I watched your videos. You say the word big, bold things a lot. And I think that's where a lot of Republicans are. What will your relationship be like with the House leadership when you come in and say, okay, you said you weren't going to block anything.
Yep.
It doesn't look like they're blocking SEPA, but there may be more stuff. What is that relationship like going forward?
We have meetings today with top members of the House, and I won't mention the names today, but we're going to have hearings today on banning red flag gun seizures. That's an example of bills moving very quickly right now through the House. To me, an organization, this is not personal. That's the whole point here. You can have a favorite in a race. Everyone has a favorite in a race. You can have an enemy for a hot moment in politics. That happens too. At the end of the day, if a politician does the right thing for guns, then we're backing them, period. And so we might not like the speaker candidate, back in December, but if the current speaker wants to move gun bills, we're all in, and we're happy to work with the guy or anybody else who will fight for gun rights. The key to us is not making it personal. It's about the issue, and we'll fight alongside anybody who will help to advance our issue, period.
Well, give me a rundown of the first month. Cindy Patterson. Thumbs up, thumbs down, give them A, B. I mean,
like you said, we're in January and we're moving bills through committee.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a very strong sign. We're going to have a hearing today at 4:30 on 2 bills to ban red flag laws. One from Maisie Christensen, one from Bill Harwick. Both of these are our bills that we're fully in support of. Again, to have these hearings in January is a rare thing. You know that.
Yeah.
The last time this happened was in 2021 with SEPA when then Speaker Boscovo moved that bill onto the floor in his first 10 days of February. So in general, we're happy to see bills moving this fast. We're a long ways from passage. You know that. We'll see where we go from here, but I like the fast track.
It feels like, if you had leadership buy-in on SEPA, I think it's going to be hard for Democrats to stand up and say, okay, they may filibuster 3-4 hours because that's,
right.
And I think everybody
obligatory
would be like,
for them.
Yeah, start this at 4 by 10 o'clock. Let's be winding it down. I think everybody would go to dinner and understand, and it'd be fine. I do think it's going to be hard for them to justify a lengthy, meaningful filibuster on a bill that their caucus allowed to come to a vote just 2 years ago. I think that, or 3 years ago. I think that's hard for them to justify essentially the same language coming to a vote that they allowed before. It kind of paves the way a little bit to the future.
Well, that and they picked up no seats. If they could show that they're fighting to stop gun rights was somehow good for their caucus, then maybe you could make that justification. But they gained this much ground in November, and so all the candidates who were pro-gun, openly pro-gun, won their races. Mm-hmm. And so the Democrats, if they want to keep bashing against gun rights, they can do that, but they're only losing more ground. Look at the Nicola race. That was definitely going to be a race that was supposed to go Dem, or at least should have gone Dem, they thought. And Joe picks it up because Joe's 100% pro-gun. So if they keep pushing to block pro-gun bills, they're only hurting the size of their caucus.
So looking forward, past SEPA. Let's say you get SEPA passed, which I'd have to say I think any serious handicap would say it's above average chance you pass SEPA. I think Kehoe signs it. Probably not. Probably with you there and a whole big production, if I had to guess.
Looking forward to it.
What do you do next?
There's 3 or 4 things that have to be dealt with here in Missouri right now. One is the preemption problem we got. So Jackson County, you probably saw this in December, they passed a local ordinance that says anybody under 21 can't have a gun, can't have ammo, can't have accessories. Complete violation of Missouri's preemption law. The problem is preemption law we have right now has no teeth, has no penalties. So we have a bill with Senator Hudson and Representative Durnell to put penalties into Missouri's preemption abortion law. It's a small bill, but having those penalties in place would allow gun owners in those impacted counties to take those agencies into civil court for damages, similar to what we did with SAPA law back in 2021. We have an issue with stand your ground law in Missouri. We passed that with Rick Bratton back in the day in 2016. That was an amendment on the constitutional carry. It was good at the time, but now with Soros prosecutors going after people, we have to make some upgrades. Unfortunately, Missouri is a presumed guilty state, so if you use your firearm, you're presumed guilty until you can prove your innocence in a court of law. That's a real problem because it gives all the power to the prosecution.
No, I didn't know that. I wonder if people know that.
Yeah, you're presumed innocent in a traffic ticket, but not if you shoot somebody in a self-defense situation. And so our bill would revert that presumption, make you presumed innocent, and it forces the government to prove your guilt. Those are some big ones for us after SAPA, and of course the big one for us is still IP reform, because all this stuff that we're getting accomplished in Jeff City could be undone down the road by a nasty initiative petition.
You were very vocal on that. I even saw you on the. Aaron does videos online. You can find him at the Missouri Firearms Coalition social media or his. You even got into the Amendment 3 fight a little bit. It changed my view a little bit. I think as a pro-life person, I had gotten pretty lax about it, if you want the truth. Sometimes these fights got a little far afield from actually being the abortion issue, it felt like. And I think there's a lot of folks that got just a little lazy, and put me in that crew as well. I liked how you talked about bold, aggressive things, because the pro-choice community, say what you will, they are aggressive, and they are bold, and they do things like work a judicial sector to make it work for them.
Right.
They do things like the IP reform. Can you do an IP reform before you fix Amendment 3?
I mean, on the pro-life side, I don't do pro-life politics, of course, but we have to.
But I heard you talk about it.
However, we repeal that has to be done. But the bottom line is, if we don't pass IP reform, we have an open sore here in Missouri that can be worked on by a Bloomberg or a Soros to do real damage to gun rights. I think one of the questions that needs to be asked is, this is kind of an open question to the pro-life community. I have 7 kids. I'm 100% pro-life. You can kind of imagine that.
Checks the box.
Checks the box. And, one of the issues here in Missouri and a lot of red states is, I'm just being blunt here, pro-lifers are very trusting people. And so any politician who says, I'm pro-life, no matter what they've done, no matter how they vote, no matter their betrayals, the pro-lifers are very apt to say, well, then you've got my vote for the rest of the time. Gun owners are very, very different. And if you don't fight for me today, then what you did yesterday doesn't matter at all.
Are they different crowds?
Well, definitely so in some cases. Crossover. There's a lot of overlap, but you get a lot of union Democrats who are big time on guns. You get a lot of the suburban soccer moms who might not be pro-life, but they want to have a Glock 20 or 43 or 26 in their purse. That's a dated reference. 26 is kind of the old. Now it's a 43X. But the soccer moms
if somebody gets that mess up, they'll forgive
props
you,
to you guys. Yeah.
Good for you.
But the soccer moms who aren't very pro-life in some cases, well, they want to have the gun in their purse to take care of their family. So there's a lot of differing demographics when it comes to guns, and we make sure that our gun owners remember the fact that this guy might say he's pro-gun, but he did this, and this over the last 2 years. And so gun owners get more respect in Missouri right now than pro-lifers, and the reason for it is that we expect more and we push harder in the primaries to punish Republicans who have betrayed our issue in the past.
I feel like, though, right now in the Capitol, there is a bit of a coming together almost of I do think there's a lot of folks that are pro-life that maybe were frustrated, put out, whatever the word you want to use.
Sure.
That are now like, wait a minute, they actually see what's happening. They see Missouri is probably the most pro-abortion jurisdiction on the planet right now. And I think a lot of folks, and I think Missouri Right to Life even, is reaching out to some people that maybe they'd criticized, and I think some people that had maybe been out with them are reaching out to them.
Sure.
I think there's nothing like a win to make you happy. But sometimes a real loss makes you realize what the fight's about. I like that big, bold aggressiveness. I think that's what the abortion issue in the state needs. And I did see Curtis Trent's a big brain. He's a smart son of a gun. He said you could change IP reform for everything going forward. But anything that was previously passed could be under the old system. I thought that was an innovative way to approach that. So you could pass IP reform now, but you would overturn an existing one with the simple majority vote that you used before. That to me was that Springfield slickness, I thought, was pretty bright.
That might work. That's above my pay grade, to be honest, on how to
me too,
best
yeah.
deal with Amendment 3. I mean, it has to be overturned. The question is, again, like, how hard will pro-lifers, as individuals and organizations, push to make that happen? I just keep pointing back to the primaries. And when it comes to guns, gun owners are very, very aggressive, and they demand big things, and they're getting them because of the results of those primaries.
Borledge, we're leading up to Governor Keogh's State of the State speech at the top of the hour. Give me a couple people right now that maybe aren't household names, but folks should know about, that are legit gun rights heroes that folks may want to follow on social media, get behind. Give me somebody whose name's not maybe on the front burner of someone that's going to be a big deal in the state.
Yeah, on the House side right now, Maisie Christensen is really scaling up her game. She's on her second term now in the Missouri House.
Talented.
She was in the White House the first time with President Trump. She was in the congressional side for a couple of years with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
She has this resume this tall, but she's only like 25 or so. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I had baseball playing and drinking were by my resume at her age.
Yeah, she's really strong on guns and lots of other issues. She's getting very good at her game right now here in the House, working the building. I think you're going to see a lot of big things coming from Maisie down the road. She's definitely a top name. Senate side, of course, is a lot fewer. There's fewer new people because they come out of the House side. I mean, Bratton's been 100% our issue for a very long time. Nicola's brand new. We're going to wait and see what happens there. But that guy, he's extremely pro-gun. You're not going to see him.
He comes off like a guy. He's
just
a
a
guy.
dude.
I mean, that's the thing about Joe Nicole. He drives that Harley. People can think they have an impression, but I've got to know him a little bit. Joe Nicole's just a dude. He's just a good dude. He can take a joke. He'll throw a joke.
Yeah.
He's just a solid guy.
Yeah. I think you're going to keep an eye on Bryant Wolfen, too, in the House. I mean, he's brand new, and he, of course, did the introductory speech for Justin Sparks. Very, very few freshmen would have the guts to go up on the floor, and basically you're kind of poking the tiger in the eye there with that speech. But he did it with a sense of class that, hey, it's not personal.
He did it well.
I believe we have to have the opportunity for a vote on this, and I'm going to offer up this nomination because I believe in this process. And I thought the way he did it left him very much unscathed, and it wasn't a personal attack. And I thought it did very good.
I think those freshmen, nobody's going to be too holding it against. I mean, they're going to have. I had Brian was on the show last week, and I was like, "You've got 8 years. No one, your first day.
Yeah,
you're in a tough spot. Whatever you do, you make your choice. I'm sure it was fine. But I was like, you'll have 8 years to know. Are you honest? Do you keep your word?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you treat people with respect? Do you do what you say you're going to do? That's what people will, in very short order, develop a reputation, just like in any workplace.
Yep.
It's not defined by, whatever you do on day one.
Yep.
Want to get you out of here and get you back to the Capitol. Aaron, thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
You bet.
Sapa, give me a prediction on when that thing starts moving House and Senate.
We're going to see how fast the committee process works. We're going to know a lot by next week. We'll see how fast they exec it out of the Transportation Committee. Tonight's hearing is going to be on the anti-red flag bill. So prediction, can't make that yet, but we'll know a lot more by next Monday when the committee comes back and has a chance to exec the bill out or not.
I'll give you a prediction. In the House, I think by the week of President's Day, this thing will be passed through the House. I think in the Senate it will be on the floor by then. Now, I don't know if
we always want to under promise, over deliver. So I'll take your date. I like that.
I think it hits the floor. I think it's going to take a little more time in the Senate.
Yeah.
But some tells me it starts to get floor time, and you start to see who the people that have a complaint are. I just think it's a I just don't really know how you go to someone and say, well, Jill Shoup allowed this to come to vote.
Yeah.
And Tracy McCreary's not, right? I think there is a value to having passed something before, passed one chamber even, but in this case, actually passed it and been vetted illegally. Aaron Dorr, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
We'll be back Sunday with Senators Berger and Bean and a full opinion maker panel on This Week in Missouri Politics.